Lisa is a 38-year-old divorced mom of two wonderful children, Ava, who is 12, and Ethan, who is 9. They live in a quaint suburban home in Evanston, Illinois, not far from Chicago. Post-divorce, Lisa works as a freelance graphic designer to make ends meet, which allows her to spend more time with her kids. Her ex-husband Mark is a different story, a troubling tale of alcoholism, infidelity, and rage. They haven't seen him for over a year. The court has issued a restraining order against him. But Lisa's gut tells her that a piece of paper won't stop Mark if he decides to come back. It's a cold October night, the wind whistling through the trees like mournful ghosts. The kids are upstairs, engrossed in their bedtime stories. Lisa is downstairs, scanning through emails when an odd message catches her eye. It's from an unrecognizable address and reads, "You can't keep them from me." Her heart sinks into her stomach. She wants to convince herself it's spam or a terrible joke. But deep down, she knows Mark is behind it. Then, a loud bang from the backyard makes her jump out of her seat. Cautiously, she peers out the window, her eyes adjusting to the darkness. She gasps as she sees the silhouette of a man standing there. Before she can react, he vanishes into the darkness. Shaking, she grabs her phone and dials 911. "Please hurry," she whispers after explaining the situation. The dispatcher assures her that officers are on the way. Her next instinct is to secure her children. She bolts upstairs and bursts into their rooms. "Kids, listen to me. Lock the windows and stay quiet. Don't ask any questions." Confused but obedient, Ava locks her window while Lisa hurries to Ethan's room and does the same. Returning downstairs, Lisa locks all doors and windows. She switches off the lights and waits in the living room, her eyes darting at every tiny sound. It feels like an eternity, but finally she sees headlights approaching. A feeling of relief washes over her. She hears the police officers knock. Running to the door, she flings it open. "He's here. My ex-husband is here," she pants. They survey the area but find nothing. "We'll patrol the area, but there's not much we can do unless he shows up again," one officer explains. They leave, and a heavy cloud of unease settles over the house. She can't shake off the feeling that Mark is still lurking somewhere close. Her instincts scream to grab the kids and leave, but where would they go at this hour? She returns to the living room, her body tensing at every creak and rustle. Her eyes keep drifting to the old grandfather clock that stands in the corner, a wedding gift from Mark's parents. Its rhythmic ticking now feels like a time bomb. Suddenly she hears it, a faint rustling noise coming from the kitchen. Her breath catches in her throat as she slowly walks toward the sound, her heart pounding like a drum. There he is, Mark, standing in the kitchen, a deranged look on his face. He must have picked the lock. How could she have been so stupid to think he'd stay away? "What the hell are you doing here, Mark? You can't be here. You can't keep them away from me, Lisa. They're my kids too," he snarls. Her hands tremble as she reaches for her phone. Mark lunges at her, but years of living with him have taught her his moves. She sidesteps, and he stumbles, buying her a few precious seconds. She locks herself in the bathroom and dials 911. "He's in the house," she screams into the phone. Within moments, she hears sirens approaching. Relief floods over her, but it's short-lived. A deafening crash echoes from the living room. Mark is destroying the place. Police storm in, shouting commands. She hears scuffling, then a loud thud. Gathering every ounce of courage, she unlocks the bathroom door and steps out. Mark is in handcuffs, a look of defeated rage on his face. "We got a call from a neighbor too. They saw him breaking in," one of the officers tells her. "You and your kids are safe now. We'll make sure he never comes near you again." As they lead Mark away, her eyes fall on the destroyed living room. Amid the wreckage, the old grandfather clock catches her eye. It has been knocked over during the scuffle, its glass face shattered. But what freezes her in utter disbelief is what lay behind the clock, a hollow space in the wall hidden all these years, with a small cache of items, a pocket knife, duct tape, and a bottle of chloroform. Mark had been plotting something sinister, possibly for years, right under her nose. The feeling of horror that washes over her is overwhelming, but so is the wave of relief. By some twisted fate, They have escaped a nightmare far worse than she had ever imagined. Mark is out of their lives, this time for good. She looks upstairs, where Ava and Ethan stand, their faces flushed with confusion and fear. With the imminent threat gone, she realizes they are survivors, not victims. As she hugs them tightly, she knows their lives will never be the same. But whatever challenges lay ahead, they will face them together, free from the haunting specter that had loomed over them for far too long. My name is Tom Fletcher, a 45-year-old small business owner living in Portland, Oregon. My life hasn't been extraordinary. A modest upbringing in Albany led to a community college degree and, finally, to opening my own business, a small hobby shop in Portland's Hawthorne district. The shop sold an assortment of rare stamps, collectibles, and comic books. It was a haven for enthusiasts and my refuge from a life that was otherwise quite bland. My family was long gone, a divorced sister in Seattle, and a father who had succumbed to lung cancer 2 years back. After my divorce from Janet, I poured my life into the shop. It was all that mattered. Everything had a semblance of peace until yesterday. I was arranging new Marvel comics on the shelf when my phone vibrated. A text from an unknown number flashed on the screen. "Did you miss me, Tom?" The air grew tense. It could be a prank, but my intuition screamed otherwise. I shoved the phone into my pocket, my hands trembling as I resumed work. That evening, my suspicions were confirmed. CCTV footage showed her lurking around the shop long after it had closed, a silhouette under the dim streetlights. Janet, my ex-wife. What was she doing here after all these years? Sleep was elusive that night. My thoughts ran wild, recalling our bitter divorce and how she had blamed me for her life falling apart. We hadn't talked in years. Had she come for revenge? My phone buzzed. A video message. My heart pounded as I played it. The screen displayed the darkened interior of my shop, filmed from outside. Then a lit match came into view and was pressed against the window. The video ended abruptly. I immediately called the police and rushed to my shop, reaching just in time to see the fire trucks dousing the remaining embers. My business, my life's work, was gone, burned to the ground. The police questioned me, of course. Had anyone threatened me? An ex-wife, perhaps. I had to admit that Janet had been near the shop. They said they'd look into it, but without concrete evidence, it would be hard to pin her down. I returned home, numb and drained. As I walked into the living room, I felt a piercing coldness like I had never felt before. The room was dark, and I stumbled on something. Flicking on the lights, I froze. Photos, hundreds of them, spread across the floor, taped to the walls. Pictures of me, my shop, my daily routine, taken from a distance. My sanctuary had been violated, my privacy shredded. My phone buzzed again, another video message. This time it was my house's exterior. The camera zoomed in on me, standing there in shock, looking at the photos. "You look good, Tom, but are you feeling lonely? Check your bedroom." I hesitated, every fiber in me resisting the urge to go upstairs. But I had to know. With every step, the weight of dread grew heavier. I opened the door and my world shattered. My bed was neatly made, but on it lay Janet's old nightdress, perfectly folded. Next to it was a box of matches. The police arrived shortly after my frantic call. They searched the property and took Janet's nightdress as evidence. I installed an advanced security system that day, but fear continued to consume me. During their investigation, the police unearthed that Janet had been suffering from severe, untreated mental health issues. She had spiraled into delusional thoughts, convinced that burning down the lives of those who she believed had wronged her would purify her own existence. It was heartbreaking, yet terrifying, that someone could descend into such a dark mental abyss. As night fell, I couldn't bring myself to sleep. The security system beeped occasionally, signaling that everything was okay. But nothing was okay. I was spiraling into paranoia, every noise an echo of impending doom. It was past midnight when the doorbell rang. The security camera showed a hooded figure standing outside, Janet's unmistakable eyes peering through. I didn't open the door. I couldn't. I just sat there, trembling in fear, as she slowly walked away. Minutes later, my phone beeped with a new text message. "You think you're safe?" Look in your car. I opened the security feed for the garage. Everything seemed normal until I noticed a faint glow inside my car. She had set it on fire, but this time the fire was slow, almost teasing. My phone buzzed again, a call from the unknown number. Hesitantly, I answered. It was Janet. I could have burned your house, Tom, with you in it. But that would be too easy. No, I want you to live. Live and wait for when you least expect it. The line went dead. The police arrested Janet that night, caught in another part of town with arson materials in her car. She had burned another ex-boyfriend's motorcycle shop the same evening. Multiple charges were filed, and it was clear she would be going away for a long time, most likely to a high-security psychiatric facility. I had survived, but at what cost? My shop was gone, my life disrupted, and my sense of security forever shattered. But the scariest part was not what had happened, but the uncertainty of what could have happened if she had gone through with it. I was no hero. I was a man broken by his own past, forever haunted by the specter of what ifs. And so I lived. I moved to Eugene, started anew, tried to put the past behind me, but the paranoia never left. I'd often find myself staring at matches or gazing at fire, pondering the fragile line between life and devastation. In a way, Janet got what she wanted. I was alive, but every moment was a breath away from an unspeakable horror that could reignite any time. Life went on, but the embers of fear never quite extinguished. Claire Thompson was a strong-willed, ambitious woman in her mid-30s who had carved a niche for herself in the cutthroat tech industry of San Francisco. A software engineer by trade and an optimist by choice, she believed in the power of technology to change lives for the better. She had worked diligently over the years, climbing the corporate ladder to become a project lead at Virtusoft, a leading software company. But underneath her confident exterior, she carried the weight of her past, a tumultuous relationship that she had only recently managed to escape. Her ex-boyfriend, Mark, was the personification of charm and charisma when she first met him. But as the months rolled on, that charisma decayed into control, and love twisted into manipulation. Mark had never accepted the word no, not when it came to his whims, and certainly not when Claire mustered the courage to end their relationship. Now, 2 months post-breakup, she had started to feel a semblance of normality, a new apartment in Palo Alto, a renewed focus on her career, and weekends spent rebuilding relationships with her family and friends. Life was getting back on track, or so she thought. It was a chilly Thursday evening, and Claire was wrapping up at work. Her phone buzzed. "Find my iPhone alert. Your iPhone was found near 1250 Market Street, San Francisco." The location of her office. She frowned. Wasn't this feature supposed to help you locate your lost phone? Her phone was right there on her desk. Then it hit her. The sinking realization that Mark had once had access to her Apple ID. A lump formed in her throat. She immediately changed her password, logged out of all devices, and for good measure, activated two-factor authentication. Just a glitch, she tried to convince herself. An error in the matrix of ones and zeros. She decided to leave for the night. Her steps quickened, heels clacking louder than usual on the polished floors of Virtusoft office. She texted her sister, "Emma, I think he might be tracking me. Can I stay at your place tonight?" The underground parking lot at 1250 Market Street was unusually deserted. Claire's Audi A3 stood alone under the dim lighting, the shadows cast on its silver body forming ominous patterns. Her heart pounded as she rushed to her car, fumbling with her keys. She threw her laptop bag on the passenger seat, and just as she was about to insert the key into the ignition, knock, knock, knock. 3 soft taps on her driver's side window. It was Mark, wearing that eerie smile, like a predator savoring the sight of its prey. "Hey, Claire, fancy meeting you here." Her heart sank into the abyss of her worst nightmares. "What do you want, Mark?" "Just wanted to talk. Can I come in?" Claire mustered all the courage she had left. "No, leave or I'm calling the police." Mark's eyes darkened, the air thickening with palpable tension. "You'll regret this," he hissed before walking away. Claire's hands were trembling as she turned the key. The engine roared to life, and she sped out of the parking lot. Not sparing a glance in the rearview mirror, she dialed Emma, her voice tinged with hysteria. He was here in the parking lot. I'm scared, Em. Really scared. Calm down, Claire. Come to my place. We'll figure this out. When she reached Emma's apartment in Mountain View, the relief was overwhelming. Like air rushing back into a vacuum, Emma opened the door, hugged her tightly, and said, "You're safe now. He won't find you here." 2 days passed with no sign of Mark. Maybe he had backed off. Claire began to let her guard down, making plans to return to her own apartment. She couldn't keep imposing on her sister's hospitality. On Saturday, her phone buzzed. Another Find My iPhone alert. Your iPhone was found near 201 Castro Street, Mountain View. Her heart froze. Emma's apartment. She had changed her passwords, activated all security features. How could he still track her? In a state of panic, she grabbed her phone and saw an email notification. Apple ID login from a new device. Mark had somehow bypassed her two-factor authentication. This was no ordinary stalking. It was a calculated siege, and Mark was winning. She heard a noise in the living room. Emma was gone for the day, attending a seminar in San Jose. Claire was alone. She picked up a kitchen knife, her grip so tight it made her knuckles white. Then she heard it again, footsteps. Claire didn't have time to think. She bolted for the bedroom and locked the door. She dialed 911. "Please hurry. He's in the house," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. Claire's heart was a drumbeat of terror as she saw the door creak open. Her grip tightened on the kitchen knife as Mark stepped into the room. His eyes locked onto hers with a predatory focus. His lips curled into a smirk, as though savoring the culmination of a well-executed plan. "Did you really think you could get away from me?" He sneered, taking slow steps toward her. Every fiber of Claire's being was paralyzed with fear. The room seemed to close in on her, shrinking with every step Mark took. But just as he reached halfway across the room, a sound shattered the oppressive silence, the blaring siren of police cars pulling up to the building. Red and blue lights flashed through the window, casting a surreal glow on Mark's stunned face. In a heartbeat, his expression shifted from arrogance to disbelief, then to fury. But Claire didn't care. She felt empowered by the sirens, invigorated by the lights. "You're too late," she said, holding the knife firmly. "They're already here." Within moments, the door burst open. Officers flooded into the room, guns drawn, shouting, "Police! Drop the weapon!" Mark's hands shot up in surrender, but his eyes met Claire's one last time. A mixture of shock, confusion, and resentment. As they handcuffed him and led him away, Claire felt a sense of liberation wash over her, as if she had just emerged from the depths of a stormy ocean, gasping for her first breath of fresh air. It was over. She was finally free. And as she looked out of the window, watching Mark being shoved into a police car, she felt her soul lift, lighter than it had ever been. "I told you, Mark," she whispered, more to herself than to him. No means no. Months later, during the trial, it was revealed that Mark had planted sophisticated spyware on Claire's phone, bypassing even two-factor authentication. The shock of this betrayal by technology, her own field of expertise, lingered long after a restraining order was issued, and Mark faced multiple charges, including stalking, breaking and entering, and invasion of privacy. Claire Thompson had survived her worst nightmare. She had faced her fears, and she had come out stronger. No one would control her life anymore. Not Mark, not anyone. And as she stood there, looking out at the horizon, where the sun was setting, casting its golden glow over the world, she made a promise to herself. She would be her own light, guiding her through the darkest of nights. This was her new beginning, a dawn of a new chapter, and nothing could stop her now,